people are waiting.
Got it. So we are ready, Anjali. I'm just going to push everybody in. And as you feel comfortable and you see people coming in, you can get started.
Sure.
Recording in progress.
All right, quick check. Tushar, can you just make Usha the co-host as well? I think she rejoined from her system. And Usha, can you just unmute and do one sound check for all of us? Usha, you can unmute yourself.
Got it. Happened. Good evening, everybody. What would you like?
All right. I think we are good. So Anjali, over to you for the session.
Thank you so much, Varsha. So first of all, a very good evening to everybody who's joined in. I know we kept you waiting for 5 minutes, but I hope the conversation is extremely interesting and insightful for all of you. I am Anjali Raghuvanshi. I am the Chief People Officer at Randstad India. I also head their Business Concepts Development team. And over and above that, I'm also President for Wiki Coaching Council, and that's precisely why I'm here. To give you a little bit of brief about Wiki, because I'm sure all of you who are joining in or would be listening to this later would be interested to know why are we here and what is Wiki Coaching Council all about. So Wiki Coaching Council is an offshoot of Wiki overall, an umbrella, which is women's forum for industry and chamber of commerce. And the idea is to boost and build women entrepreneurship and to also lies with government institutions and different networks and forums to really empower women to really take businesses ahead. Coaching is one of the sector council that they have. And today I can say that within our coaching council, we are almost 200 coaches plus stakeholders across the country. Coaching, as some of you would recognize, is a mainstream conversation which happens only in bigger cities, but not necessarily reaches different parts of the country. So today, with 10 states in place, we have made coaching a conversation in states like Haryana, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. Some of the states, Michelle is wondering what are these places, but these are all states in India. So yes, that's what Wiki Coaching Council is doing. And one of the mission that Wiki Coaching has is to touch 1,000 lives this year through our coaching initiatives. We do a lot of pro bono coaching with NGOs, women, groups as well. So look forward to the conversation from that perspective, bringing all of you to what is Coach Dialogues all about. So we are connected with several coaches, and what we realize is that we have a host of people who aspire to be coaches, run coaching as a business, but unfortunately there are not many forums that help them in terms of understanding how can they make coaching a viable business. So Coach Dialogues is going to bring a lot of topics in this series around coaching and things that coaches and coaches would love to know, and we are creating a channel for them. today I'm extremely excited because I have a great set of panelists with me who come from different backgrounds and have been running different businesses, but what they have in common is business. And I think our coaches can really get a lot benefit out of this conversation. So I'll just very briefly introduce my panelists and get into the conversation as we would love to get in there. So I see Richa on my screen first. So I'll start with Richa. So Richa, I mean, I know Richa very well because of our connection with Your Dost, which also is a partner for Randstad for counseling and really helping us on the physical and mental well-being journey as such. And Richa is a co-founder herself of Your Dost, and I'm sure there's a lot of interesting input she can bring from her business perspective. I see Michelle next. So Michelle, I know her from my Randstad journey as well. She's been a part and parcel of some of the best programs that Randstad has seen. But in her current journey, Michelle is also a businesswoman of sorts. She's an executive leadership coach. And one of the interesting things that Michelle told me yesterday, which I find very, very useful for our conversation today, is that she's also helping co-author the guidebook for United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, corporate guidebook series that she's co-authoring. And I'm sure there is lots that she can bring in from that perspective. Welcome, Michelle. And Geeta, welcome to you as well as part of our panel. You are yourself a managing director of VNCT, and Usha had some great things to say about you in terms of the value you can bring in. Extremely excited to know that you were also Women Entrepreneur of the Year for 2019. And I'm sure there is lots that people can benefit from your conversation here today. And the last panelist, none but our own Usha Raghunath, who's herself a coach in India. And Usha has also worked with organizations like Wipro and IBM before. And she is also a businesswoman in the coaching front, and she has some great and big ideas for what coaching can and transformation of coaching in India. So I'm really looking forward to Usha adding value from an India coaching industry perspective and also her input as a coach. So with all the amazing panelists that we have today, I would now enter into the conversation because I'm sure that's what most of the people are looking forward to. So my first conversation, I would begin the conversation with Geeta and Richa, because two away from the coaching industry, but businesswomen who can bring a lot of perspective here. And because our entire conversation is around how to make coaching a viable business and growth and sustainability under that. So maybe, I'll let Geeta start first, and then Richa, you can come in, because the question is going to be common for both of you, but I'm sure different perspectives. So the question is, how should a business look at growth and sustainability? And do these principles really apply for across industries, different businesses? And what is your advice for our audience who are either running or aspiring to run a business?
See, business is a very dynamic game altogether, and it's all about growth. Even to sustain and to survive, you have to grow. You have to keep inching forward. That is what business is all about. I represent multiple industries. We are into real estate, we are into automotive component manufacturing, we are into movie theaters business, and we are also into leasing division business. So in all of that, yes, growth is a constant thing. What I would say is the first requirement, because we represent a B2B and a B2C. So I don't know how to address everything together. So I'll just go with the flow. And I would say first and foremost, I will start talking from a B2C angle. So in our real estate division, I will talk from a retail, we are into retailing. So in that, if you see, it is all about client mapping. First is customers mapping. Do you know your customers? Do you know really what they want? Is the first thing for any growth or any sustenance and for that business to survive and to grow. And next is your market mapping. What is the market saying? Are you listening to the market? Market is different and the clients are different. So do you know your market? What is the market saying? And that is where your competitor analysis or what is your everything comes into play. So you have to do that differently. Each market behavior is so different. And because we are into international markets and we are into domestic markets, I see the behavior pattern of each market very, very different. Though it is the NRI buyers, and though they are the South Indians who are spread across different parts of the globe, but the behavioral pattern on each country is so different. So that is where I will say, do you know your market? Do you know your clients? So those two mapping are very, very important. And the third is your value proposition. All the time, it is about your value proposition. It has to be far greater than the price they pay you. I will always say the product or the service value has to be far superior than the price. The price has to automatically come down, and what we deliver has to be far superior to that. These are the three parameters I keep watching all the time, because I head in my real estate division, the sales and marketing. So I keep watching this all the time. And one more big realization is, if you put 4 boxes, it is your existing clients and new clients, and then your existing products and your new products. I would say your maximum revenue for any business comes from your existing clients and your existing products, and then your existing clients and your new products. So are we taking that much of care of your existing clients? Your business is on the table. It could be upsell, it could be resell, it could be repeat or referral. It could be so much to do with the existing basket. So are we focusing on the existing, or we are saying that is done and we are running for the new one? So there is so much which needs, so that is where your customer focus, you have to be a very customer centric organization for you to grow and sustain. That is my principle of the whole business. I am so customer, I'm the spokesperson in my organization for my customers. So my customers are in the safest of hands. So I would say these are the important principles for growth and sustaining growth in any business.
Thank you so much, Geeta. And I saw Richa nodding to a lot of responses you were giving. So I will quickly go to Richa and, take her inputs and then go from there.
Yeah. It's not nodding, Anjali, actually taking my notes, right? And Geeta, that thing of your existing customers, that's where your maximum business, so it drives so much home. I think we started with Randstad India, and Anjali is right here, and we now work with so many of Randstad entities, right? So that's very, very important. But thank you so much, Anjali. It's a very, very interesting question, and something that I think for someone like me, being a first-time entrepreneur, right? We operate in the area of emotional wellness, right? How in India, there's a lot of stigma around seeking psychological help. How could we make it mainstream, right? How could we help someone be a better version of themselves, right? And when I look at your question, Anjali, of growth and sustainability, I think a business cannot be a business. These are non-negotiable, right? A business, it's just not possible that a business cannot grow. It's not a business if it's not sustainable. I think when I was starting out, however great our vision and mission could be, and we say, we are on a mission of creating a happier India. However great our vision and missions be, if it cannot sustain itself, right, it's not a business. I think that's, for me, for someone who was very passionate about building what we are building, I think that was the first learning that I had, right? I did not go to a business school, but that for me was like, okay, users are using it, people are loving it, that's great, right? But will people pay for it? That's equally important, right? Or maybe otherwise I can raise some money from donors and people like that, but there's only that much that I can do, right? So being a business, your sustainability is very, very important. Your growth is non-negotiable, right? From there, I think, however, there is a leeway in terms of prioritizing, right? Maybe I'm prioritizing growth a lot more right now, which means I would invest into growth, right? I would have lesser profits, that's fine, but I would invest into growth. So I think what I'm also trying to say, one of the things that when I see a lot of people now building businesses, you have to ensure your unit economics works, right? एक बेसिक धंधा तो होना ही चाहिए. अगर 100 रुपए का सामान है तो मैं 50 में बना रहा हूँ, or whatever. It is 80. So that basic math has to be in place, right? Because I think a lot of young people, especially when I hear, they say, right, we'll think about business model later, right? It's okay to fine tune your business model later, but it needs to have a business model. Otherwise, it will fall flat after some time, right? So I think that thinking about unit economics is important. Right? I think like Geeta was saying, it's very, very important to know who your customer is, right? For whom are you building? Are you as a coach? Would you be specializing for a coach for startups? Will you be working with middle-level managers? Would you be working with CXOs? Would you be working with CXOs who are 20 years experience, 30 years experience, know their industry very well? Are you going to be working with startup founders? I think it's very important for you to understand their mindset very, very well, right? Do that also, I think like Geeta was mentioning, your understanding of the market, and I'm not just saying in coaching market, right? For any market, I'm just giving you example for myself, right? Mental health in India it's a evolving market, right? It's a latent need. It's not like people easily go to a mental health professional these days, right? Uh, in last 7 years, I've seen the pie increasing, but it is still, it's not the first thing people think about, right? Whereas in the West, therapy and therapists are very common. I think what I'm trying to say as a business owner, it's very important for you to understand who your target audience is, right? How big is the market, right? Does your market require a lot of education? I'm assuming if for coaching as well, like for mental health, I know it's a lot of education that we have to do before we sell, right? Similarly, you'll have to explain people what is coaching, why coaching is important, what is it that you would benefit. So spend time in knowing that, be crazy about knowing that. Talk to them, understand, especially in the starting, it's super, super critical, right? Looking at that data. I think it's one of the things that I would also say, something that I've learned over time is very important for you to sort of experiment with your business model before you finalize, right? Maybe understand what's worked in some other geography, may or may not work in this geography, right? India is a very different market altogether. And I'm sure it's not necessarily like you're looking at India only as a market, but I'm saying it's very important for you to understand, like Geeta was also mentioning, right? What is your market? Who are your people? How big is the market? What do they want? What is their kind of lifestyle, right? What will they pay for it? And experiment. Do I want to pay per session? Do I want to pay as a subscription that I'm available for a month? What is it? But I think at the end of it, again, if it's a business, you have to ensure that the unit economics work, right? Whatever, it's okay if you invest in growth, you're negative, but at a unit level, it should work for you. I think I can sort of keep talking about it for, but I'll probably end with it, or rather end with two things, right? Understand also what you want, right? Do you really want to build it as a unicorn? Do you want to build it as a very large business? Do you see, every business is a good business, right? Do you want it this, we keep hearing, lifestyle business, it works in its own way. It doesn't. What is your appetite, right? How big you want to make it? It's okay to start slow. For you to know, is your all your machinery is working before you fuel it, right? So I think understand that what is that you want, right? How much control you are ready to give. Is it like you want to bring in VCs first? You want to run it with your family and friends' money? You want to own the 100% of your ownership? Just reflect on some of these things, and I think at the end have very measurable goals, right? Measurable in terms of how many people you want to touch, what is the revenue you want to reach, right? Also in terms of how much time that you want to invest, right? Is it working? Not like when we started, we were here. This is the number of lives we want to touch in our first 1 year. If this happens, that's when I know this is a business that we want to invest. At the end of it, you're investing your time, energy, money into it, right? So you also want to know, is that all that I can do with my life, or is there more that I can do with my life, right? So have that measurable goals for yourself, for you to know that, do I want to continue that path? Do I want to change and take up another path, right? Sometimes you have to give up good for the best to happen. So be open about that as well. Right? Probably I take a pause here, actually, and pass it on to you. Otherwise, I can keep talking.
No, thank you so much, Richa. I think two things that I could definitely say, Geeta, and you brought one. Geeta, I think you were very passionate about existing customers, and I think it's irrespective, this applies to everybody. And Richa, you spoke about maths and business model, and very important to convert your vision and passion into something which is measurable as well, right? So thank you for your insights, both of you. I think now I'll move to Michelle. And I have a question which I'm sure every coach has in their mind, and they constantly think about it, but don't know, where to go and who to ask. So Michelle, for you, as we all know, a coach is always torn between the purpose and heart of coaching and the hard realities of a viable financial model. What are your suggestions to our fellow coaches and aspirants who are looking to build a viable business while enabling their clients reach their true potential?
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invite to be here and to be with all of you. I was very impressed actually with Geeta and Risha's comments. I'm just going to add one more thing, because Geeta, as a very savvy businesswoman, you're obviously thinking about all the right things as a consultant and coach. I would say there's two other things to add, if I might. One is your impact on the environment. It's very important for sustainability, which I didn't hear mentioned. And also, as you grow, regulatory compliance requirements might differ. So it's really not only important to know the customers in the marketplaces, but also any kind of impact. So I couldn't help resist, because I am a capital consultant, and when I felt that was missing. But now I'd love to answer your question, Anjali, about the coach and, being torn between the heart of coaching, which is what you love to do, and you really want to help people and you want to deliver the best services to people. But the reality is that you are a business. So everything that Geetha and Risha just said is absolutely true. You have to think about yourself as the product that you're delivering, or the services that you're delivering. And you have to think about your perspectives as a coach. They're very valuable. The work experiences, your lived experiences, your education, any certifications that you have, accumulated knowledge and understanding of how to help move people forward. So those are all valuable. And how do you put a price on that? Because that's your viable financial model, is following the plan that Geetha said, which is knowing your customers, knowing your audience, knowing who your competitors are, and knowing what you want to deliver, and continuing to evolve that product or the portfolio of products to meet the needs of your growing clients. Those are all value-added services. And that's how you should think about yourself as a coach. You are part of the company as a coach that's adding value. So therefore, you should be compensated as a coach in accordance with the value that you're bringing. If you don't feel that way right now, it might be early on in your process. Or if you are advanced in your process and you're still struggling with the value of your coaching, you might be recognizing this as a sign of imposter syndrome. And I can help you with that, because I coach women leaders on imposter syndrome. But in all seriousness, when you're just starting out, you might do some pro bono work. You absolutely will need to evolve your product, your service, and your approach. But I suggest that you don't think this about purely giving away your services, because it's quite valuable for you. And here's why. It helps you generate interest of others. And as a coach, it will promote you as a coach, which can begin the referral process. And referrals are a very, very important part of growing your business as a coach. So while you're doing pro bono work, you're marketing yourself. But even more importantly, though, it allows you to have the opportunity to hone your craft. I found that early on, the work I did allowed me to experiment. And Risha, I love that you use that word, because I use it a lot. But experimenting with different approaches, I was able to create my own style and coaching approach. And frankly, I was building my confidence as a coach at the same time. So please don't think of it as purely giving away free services. You're actually testing the market when you think about it from a business perspective. And once people feel that value of your coaching and they see the potential tangible results, so if you're a career coach, you're helping them reach their career goals. If you are a leadership coach, you're helping them to be a more effective leader. You will see that the value of and the compensation comes with your coaching, whatever those goals might be. So it's important, as the business leader said, to think of your coaching as a financial viable business. You must define your audience, determine what certain type of coaching you want to develop practices for, and become that undeniable authority, and actually market yourself. Have this clear messaging and branding about what services that you're offering. You may want to create a process or a program, or at least an outline of your services, because when you develop a program, sometimes people feel more compelled to sign up and pay for a program versus just signing up for a few coaching sessions that feel a little bit more nebulous. It provides them with the structure they need to pay and give you money. That's really important. And let's not forget, when you're a coach, I'm a solopreneur, so I'm the only one in my business. So I do the coaching, the consulting, the writing. And by the way, I am also the business owner. So I have to do all the systems and the back office processes that I need in order to manage and scale my business. So I want to spend the majority of time doing what I love. So I have to minimize the back office, generating leads, pipelining new clients, doing the administration like billing, tracking receiving payments, answering emails, filing and submitting taxes and reporting financials. These are not the fun part of owning a business. So you need to try to minimize the needs for those by putting in systems that allow you to do that easily and effectively. By the way, if you are not very good or comfortable at generating leads or marketing yourself, there are a growing number of groups that would be very happy to provide you with those supplemental support and even the back office process support, but of course for a fee. So then you have to be making enough money to pay for those services. But the pricing question definitely comes up, especially when I'm coaching new coaches and launching their businesses. I've helped a number of coaches launch their businesses. So with respect to pricing, I recommend that you price yourself accordingly based on the understanding of your target audience. What are they willing to pay for the services? And by the way, I have different pricing models for different audiences, and that's okay too. You don't want to be the most expensive coach because that's a difficult place to be, but you certainly don't want to be the least expensive coach either. So think about the methodology for establishing your pricing. I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards or later on if you want to contact me separately.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And first of all, thank you for adding sustainability and regulatory inputs to the answers before. And I'm sure a lot of coaches here would love to connect with you and know more in terms of how you're managing. And before that, I would like to also thank you for being here so early in the morning for yourself. And I must say that Michelle looks the same throughout the day you connect with her. So I don't know how you do that, but that's commendable, Michelle. Thank you for that. And now I'll move to Usha. And Usha, and maybe maybe later, Michelle, you could chime in with a little bit of US coaching industry, because my question to Usha is going to be specific to India for coaching market. And we know that India is relatively new and clients do not fully understand what is coaching at times, especially the value coming from Michelle's question on how do we price our services, and how do you how do you approach clients and help them understand the benefits of coaching and the ROI? So share a success story if you can, Usha. Usha, I'll have to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And thank you, Anjali, for moderating this. Each of the points raised by by Richa and Geeta and Michelle are so interesting. Like, I want to have a conversation around that. But I'll first address what Anjali is seeking. I actually started coaching in 2010. That's when I started my journey, and I did a lot of coaching inside organizations. I was in organizations till the end of 2017. 2018, I came out and I started trying to understand the coaching ecosystem in India. For me, I think the strength I bring is being on the ground, being one of the coaches, trying to figure out the whole business, and also the strength of always being able to see the big picture, seeing all the elements, scanning the environment. I think I've always worked like that. It didn't matter if I was just starting out my career at 20 or right now. I like to see the big picture. I like to see all parts of it. I think that's a strength. So when I started Jan 2018, so that's now about 4 years, I have immersed myself in the coaching ecosystem. I have become part of large networks of coaches in Bangalore, in India. Anjali and I have set out to build a network of coaches in India, and all the advice you're giving about trying to understand what is happening on the ground, what's happening with clients, what do they understand about coaching, what's happening with coaches, what are their challenges, are things which have been of great interest to us. And we really have immersed ourselves in that. And that's the reason we want to do this work even more, and I'm going to talk from the point of view of a coach. So when I started out, like even as you're accrediting, you need to get your paying clients. And through the years, I've found that in India, starting at the top works, right? So you start with the CEO, ask for the CXO team, cascade down to CEO -2, -3, -4. When you're inside a large organization, they have their own, logic and way of thinking. So they will not allow you to start from CEO -1. They'll say, okay, CEO -4, -3, -2, build your skill as a team and do the work. So I've done both. And then individually as a coach, like Michelle was saying, I'm a solopreneur at the point, right? And yet the reason from 2018 Jan, I have been studying the ecosystem so closely is I don't think I want to build this business only for me as an individual. That's okay. That's my personal journey then. But when I look at the whole ecosystem, I'm like, we need to work together. And a lot of the work is, and Michelle touched upon that, very lightly, and I think you're talking about the coach directories, Michelle, which are emerging all over the place. And then when Richa says, figure out which slice of the customer, which specialization. And I've heard a lot of that advice from senior coaches, people who have already built their own business, maybe for the last 4, 5, 10 years, some of them even more. And I find on the ground, and there are a lot of MBAs also, Richa, and a lot of people who have been in large corporates and who have come out and who are now executive coaches, and they're looking at senior leaders. So you have a really diverse set of people trying to, create an industry, essentially. I think it's right now quite unorganized, quite, individual business based or small groups, like a small firm, partnerships, and of course, the emerging coach directories. And there's a lot of scope. I mean, India is a big country. And of course, we have to figure out what the clients want. And what I like best about what Richa said is, what will they pay for? And that's exactly why this discussion, what will they pay for? And what will they not pay for? Anybody who's run a business in India, and this is a question to all the, to Geeta, to Richa, how do you get people to pay? Because I think from my own personal experience, and I have been a consultant from the early 90s, payment is a different ball game. Service is a different ball game. Understanding your market, everything is different. The final thing, you don't have a business, sustainable business, growing business, if people are not willing to pay. So what will people pay for? And yes, I don't think we still have the answers for any of these questions. And so when each of you speak, it's so valuable. I just want to, kind of have those even deeper conversations. I think we are not at the beginning, because now we have a lot of accredited coaches, not only from the ICF, from a variety of accreditation agencies. We also have very senior leaders who have left industry, who have become coaches, and who are very welcome in large organizations to coach senior leaders. So to understand what exactly is happening, and even more to understand how do we help coaches build a business which is sustainable, which can survive, like Geeta said, for survive, sustain, grow. And if you don't grow, you can't survive or sustain. So how do we make this happen? Not only for myself, not only for Michelle, but for the whole coaching community is really the journey I'm on right now, and definitely a learning curve.
Thank you so much, Usha. And I do have a follow-up question for both you and Michelle, but I do have a live question that has come from the audience. So I do want to kind of pick it up. And this question is for Michelle and Richa both. So you can both can take a look at it. Coaching and access to mental health have long been perceived as privileges, especially for historically underrepresented groups like women of color, LGBT plus individuals, entry-level professionals who do not have the financial bandwidth to afford these options. As a coach, business owner, how do you want to reach out to these groups? So anything you both would like to add? Yeah, Michelle, you can go ahead first. You can unmute yourself.
Oh, you want me to go first? Oh, sorry. I thought Risha was going first. I appreciate the question. And hi, Ankita, how are you? I wanted to think about that as, there are many services that are considered coaching. Some are mentoring, some are clinical support. So it really is defined, especially in the US, and very differently than I don't know how prevalent those services are available in the Indian market, but across the world, different countries have those kinds of services for different people. I know in the US, I have many friends who are coaching and focused on different communities. So I have one friend who's, she calls herself an adulting coach. So she focuses on the 23 to 27 or 28-year-olds, because they are the ones who are breaking away from their parents. They've recently graduated. They're starting their first couple of years in school, or coming out of school, finishing advanced degrees, or starting their first or second job. So she specializes in that, and that's her realm. And she advertises in that. There's another very, very close friend of mine who specializes in supporting LGBTQ, because there are, just as women have different challenges than men do, so depending on where your life experiences are, you're having different experiences. You're experiencing the world differently. So to have a coach that specializes in that is very important to some people. Now, I coach people of all ages, and I coach people of all races and from all nations. So people are people to me. I meet people where they are. So I don't necessarily feel like I personally have to specialize, but I certainly wouldn't necessarily be able to relate my own personal experience with those who I have not had that common background. So my thought is find someone who either has lived it or specializes it, or considers themselves an expert in that area for whatever reason.
Thanks, Michelle. Richa.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very, very valid question. In fact, maybe I'll take a minute and take you through my journey. We started Yotos 7 years back. And we were very clear, both Puneet and I, my other co-founder, we were very clear we wanted to make it as a sustainable business, as a private limited organization, right? And whenever we would go for raising funds, or very established people we would talk to, they would say things like, you want to do good, that's great, raise some grant, or raise some donation and do it, right? But I think we believe very strongly that doing good and doing business can happen together, right? You can create sustainable business model, and it's not like people cannot pay for it. It's just that they don't think it is their priority. It's about educating the market that they're ready to pay for it, right? So first 2.5 years, or maybe 3 years of Yotos, we used to be completely B2C, which exists even right now. But that was our major business, right? Where people would come and it was completely free. Where people would come, take therapy, Michelle was mentioning right at the beginning, where we were testing our audience, right? First question to ourselves in India, I'm talking about online therapy in 2015 when there was no COVID. So even for therapists, they'll be like, no, this doesn't happen online and so on. But I think we reached a good scale. We were doing almost 1,000 or maybe 2,500 sessions every day, right? That's when we knew that people are open to the idea of therapy. I think the first question to us was, forget about payment. Will people be open to the idea of therapy, right? The second question to us, and that's why I'm saying, will people pay for it, right? Because that was VC money. There's only that much that you could keep fueling in, but business has to make sense. The economy has to work. And that's when we pivoted, saying, or rather more than pivot, we also started working with certain organizations, certain institutions, where we realized that they understand the importance of emotional well-being, right? For a lot of us, we have experienced insurance for the very, or health checkups for the very first time through our corporates, right? But now quite a few of us actually take insurance or buy health checkups directly as well. That's the evolution that took 10 years, but that has happened. I think similar is the case in that's the way I look at it, mental health or even coaching, right? Somebody has to be the ambassador. For us, there were colleges. So we work with, I think, 17 IITs. I understand IITs understand the importance, right? They also have the propensity to pay. There could be people who understand the importance, but if they can't pay, you can't run a sustainable business, right? Secondly, we also, a lot of IITs, IIMs, a lot of larger universities from VITs, SRM, we realize they can pay, they care about the well-being of their people. They have a larger population with them. So a little bit of cost wouldn't matter to them that much, right? That was first. A lot of organizations, right? High growth startup, large established companies which talk about their people being important for them, right? Those were the companies that we again started approaching. And what we realized is, if we are able to influence that group, right? When you enter a company, you get an audience of 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 500 people. If they're talking in smaller circles, right? And that's when it multiplies, right? They have realized the importance, then they refer their parents or siblings or friends to you. And that's when there is more sort of awareness around it. So I think, so one for us, again, so B2C continues to exist, but we understand that for it to take off in a way that we would want, will take its own education and things to happen in the market. For B2B, be it corporate, colleges, or even we work with a lot of governments, right? If we want to work with a lot of people from low income background, because we couldn't reach them through corporates, or we couldn't reach them through colleges. Government is a great medium to reach out to them. So then we do tie-ups with certain government bodies who could sponsor that. I think what I'm trying to say is, if you think that the people can't sponsor it right now, can you look for that sponsorer, be it their corporate, be it their manager, be it somebody else, right? Some other body who could sponsor. That might also be a viable business model. It probably, I took a lot of time, but I thought might help you from our own journey.
Thanks, Richa. I'm sure Ankita has the response that she needed, both from you and Michelle. I'll quickly get on to our question, and I also see that there are questions audience have asked at the time of registration. So I'll also take out some time to ask some of those. Some can be dealt with later, but some I'll take in the session today itself. So maybe Michelle and Usha, and I'll start with Usha first and then go to Michelle here. How did you get your first client? As a successful coach, how do you ensure that you continue to get clients? So maybe a little bit of best practice I see here is what people are seeking. So Usha, you can start first.
Yeah. So my first clients, of course, were when initially I needed to build my practice, and I went to a multinational. I'm being very specific. I'm talking about exactly my first client. It was a multinational organization which had many verticals. And they are huge across the world in one vertical, but they were in India, in Bangalore, for their IT vertical. And I approached the CEO of that vertical. They were a complete business in themselves. They were registered separately. I had a conversation with him, and he brought in a CXO team. So those conversations took time. But the meetings were network meetings, official professional network meetings is where I met him, and I sought time. I went in, I presented. You understand, this was my first client. So I talked to them about coaching and what value it'll bring to them. And then I had to talk individually with each of their CXO and convince them. It wasn't enough that the CEO was saying, guys, go and, get coached. It wasn't that. They had to vet me, each of them, what we now call chemistry sessions, right? And each of them had to agree. And like, except for one who was really like not convinced about the value, the rest of them said yes. And this is what so then we went into the process of coaching. It went on for 3 months because it was a proper exercise. That was my very first client, and it was great. Subsequently, like you're all saying, it was referrals. I am hearing all of you, and as I hear you, inside my head, it's running. You have to build it like any other business. It's a regular business which has to be built step by step by step. You have to think about it. You have to put yourself out there. I'll share one best practice, Anjali, for example, which you're asking. And I used to do it in my consulting years, and I do it now in my coaching. First thing in the morning, before the rest of the world wakes up to business, I call 5 people. I cold call people. I cold call 5 potential clients first thing in the morning. I don't always manage to call 5. So sometimes maybe 3 or 4, but my goal is to cold call 5 people. They could be individuals. They could be a gatekeeper to an organization, an influencer. It could be anybody. But I do that, and that's how I build my practice. And I love talking to complete strangers. I have no problems doing that. So when you ask, when I think about how coaches can build business, a lot of my thinking is going towards what are the internal barriers we create for ourselves when we are trying to build a business. What do we not want to do? And and my experience with coaches is they're extremely accomplished people. They are very senior people. They've seen a lot of success in their lives, and they're so accomplished that they're very good at telling themselves solid stories which nobody can. I mean, they're like a fortress, right? So you cannot challenge or ask, and yet, of course, they think they're very open. But what I've seen, for example, in the last 4 years, is we have a personal identity which is so strong and so powerful and so value-based that it is unquestionable. The identities we create for ourselves, we cannot question. We ourselves cannot question it. Forget anybody else challenging and questioning it. A lot of coaching revolves around peer coaching. So coaches are always coaching each other. Coaches are always open to coaching. When you are accrediting, you are always told you always have something you can be coached on, and that's a learning curve, and that's beautiful. And yet the stories we tell ourselves are so powerful that we do not see what is it that I'm unwilling to do to grow this as a business. So the challenge starts right there saying, would I even call it a business? What does that do to me? Am I a business person? No, I'm a coach. So, which is why this conversation becomes so critical, that if we are having to question the identity we have created for ourselves, and the identity we have created for ourselves is so beautiful, so powerful, and so mature and so complete that we cannot go on a new journey of building a coaching business. I see a challenge right there. So to all coaches, my question is, what am I afraid to do? Right? So when Michelle says, and that is a coaching concept, it's part of the coaching base, right? That coaches don't need to be experts at what they're coaching, right? And yet there's again, like I said before, there's a lot of received wisdom that if you have something very specific, like adulting coaching, right? That's fantastic. Or you are a business person, so you can coach business people. Or you have been a very senior person in corporate, so you can coach senior corporate leaders. So there are a lot of, I would say, also myths which can be busted easily personally by each of us experimenting. And I love that word too. You know, if you have heard each of you saying experiment. But we have to do personal experiments to figure out what's stopping us. And one of the first things in coaching is, you know, are we looking at the external environment and saying the external environment is not supportive? is not enabling, is not empowering, and so I cannot do this? Or are we able to make that internal journey and say, yes, that's the reality, that's the context. Now, how do I build a business? And we, as coaches, we even go to the extent of saying, I'm not a business person. I'm not in this to build a business. And then we do pro bono, pro bono, pro bono, pro bono. And then a little bit of, Michelle was saying, please price yourself right. What is the lowest I can price myself in, according to me, a very competitive market? And then how do I even collect that money? I think we really have challenges here in India. I'm sure in other countries, it's not the same set of
I'll
challenges.
have to intervene given that time is running out,
Yes,
but there are a lot of
I'm done.
interesting questions that have come in. So I'm a little bit deviating panelists on my other
Yeah.
set questions to the one which is coming from the audience. I think I'll go to Geeta first because Samya has asked a question here in the group where she's asking, how does a coach figure out if my business is viable? What aspects to look for when starting out? So maybe the largely question is around how do you really know that you're going in the right direction and are being successful? What are the signs, I guess? So maybe Geeta, you can look at this question.
Yeah, Anjali. See, listening to Usha and listening to this question, the first thing for a coach is please tell yourself you're in business and you're a businesswoman. Languaging, self-languaging is the key factor. What we language ourselves is how we are going to operate the whole thing. So it has to be, you can be a solopreneur, you can be an entrepreneur, whatever it is, but you're a businesswoman or you're a business person, a coach. So you're out there in the market, you're selling your product and service, that means you're in business. So the more we language, it is a business. And today it is you. Tomorrow you could expand. Tomorrow you can have 10 people. So why are you thinking it is always going to be only you? So think first you're in business and it has to be operated like a business. And as Richa said, it has to make the economic sense. Anything what we do has to make the economic sense. You have so much of each one of you as a coach have so much of experience and knowledge. So there has to be a per hour rate. If you have to calculate your entire cost, see, always in business, what makes it work personally, if you ask me, the capital we put and the overheads we are running, that makes us run faster because we burnt the money and we have to make it work. But since you don't have a scenario like that because you are sole entrepreneurs, because you're not putting cost to yourself. Now you need to factor that cost. This is my monthly, this is my monthly value. When you have to per hour rate, and then you will understand when you're not billing that hour or that amount is not happening monthly, then as a business, you're not making profit. You need to evaluate yourself with metrics. So that is how you will start driving for more revenue. You will have the confidence to ask for the pricing. Usha, you asked what is the right price to ask. The price is what you believe in asking, what you believe in receiving, what you believe if you were to receive your own service, what is it you will pay for it. So you need to have that belief system in what you deliver, and that becomes your pricing. Your pricing can be anything. It need not, there is no, you can't define a price to that. It is only what is the value you are bringing to the table. What is the belief mechanism? What is your languaging? What is happening in your mind? So all that determines the game, and everybody has to look at it as a business and operate it as a business. That's my personal take.
Yeah, I would also just like to add to it, Anjali, if you give me 30 seconds here. I think it's not just about saying that. I think I saw, right, you're only looking at financial viability. That's very, very critical, right? Because see, at the end of it, if you want to change lives of people, and somewhere you think that, hey, I'm putting in so much and I'm not able to keep myself happy, then it becomes a difficult thing for you to sustain yourself in that, right? So it's very important that you think of it as a business. I think as women, I've always seen a lot of us wait for that tiara moment. Somebody will tell us what is the right price, or somebody will, will increase our price. Doesn't happen, especially if India is your market, doesn't happen at all, right? Even if you will say 5,000, no, people will ask you, can you give it me for 3, right? You see, right on the street, 10 rupees mein aloo, still you will negotiate and bring it down to 7 rupees, 8 rupees, whatever it is. So it's important. It's not just about the reason you're placing yourself, because you value yourself, right? And it's okay. See, I'm not saying right from day one, but you will have to have that balance where you think, the way you're moving is something that you're proud of. I think that's the only thing that you'll have to, and it's okay to ask for right price. It's okay to talk money.
Yeah,
Right? It's not a bad thing.
absolutely. One more thing I will just quickly want to add here is build content the best way for a coach, if somebody has to come to me as a coach, and I would be wanting, I'm just thinking of how I would become a client to Usha or Michelle, then how I would want is, I would want to see a testimonial from you. That is what will validate the whole thing, because for me, I will just want to see the testimonial. And then the content, if the content is very powerful, you are going to give me that powerful content of what I am going to derive and what I'm going to achieve at the end of it. And with a strong testimonial, that will be a very solid case for the coaching industry, I feel.
Thank you, Richa and Geeta. I think, in fact, as I'm looking at the questions that some of the other coaches asked, I think asking money or really talking money seems to be a challenge. And that seems to be the question a lot of people have actually asked us also, in terms of how do we measure impact? How do we talk money? And Geeta, also your input in terms of what you are expecting coaches to be, because some of the questions were also around how do we really go to a client and say, this is what our value that we are adding as a coach. And Usha is wanting to jump in. So I'll let
one very quick thing, because Geeta talked about testimonial, and I would also like to bring Richa into that, which is coaching again offers tremendous confidentiality. So to ask for a testimonial, people may not even want to say that they took coaching. So how do you walk around that? Maybe Richa can also answer that question to help us.
So Usha, I give long answers to your question, but when we even started out those, right? That was our hypothesis, right? Mental health service, everything is completely confidential, completely safe. In fact, even on our platform, people are anonymous. They could call themselves Superman, Batman, right? When we created our first sign-up form, we did not even ask them for their email IDs. We said username, take a Superman, take a password, and start using yours. Then we said, okay, let's put email ID. Let's see how many people are comfortable. It was not mandatory, but 95% of the people were sharing it, right? Then we made it mandatory. I think where I'm going from this is now we also have something like YD Warriors. And there are quite a few people who are actually willing to share their story, right? It's in our mind initially that people might not be open, but right at the beginning when we spoke, they were like, you know what? I'm so helped. I feel so grateful to you guys that I want to go and tell 10 of my friends that, you know what, they should also seek support from yours. Sometimes that asking that, will you be okay? Will you be okay to share your name and details? Because other people from the community could benefit. And I see out of 10 people that we end up asking, 8 actually oblige. They feel very happy to support us, to actually support other people in their community to take help. So maybe just asking might be a way to.
I think that's a very valuable input, Richa. Sometimes we just hesitate to ask. We assume that a client won't give a testimonial, right?
Yeah.
So interesting responses, and I know we've kind of almost come to the time, so I'm not really sure how much of our panelists would have other things. So, but we do have some interesting questions, and what probably we would ask from your end is if you could share some of your responses, we'll share it with you, and we would want to reach out to our audiences in terms of the responses they were expecting. But bringing our conversation today to a closure, given the time, I think it's been an amazing conversation. I already see that people were chatting around, so people were really engaged. And I think this goes on YouTube channel of ours as well, so even others have chance to go and look at the recorded version of the conversation. But great insight, and this is first. So yes, many more to come on how can you really make coaching a viable business model. And I see a lot of interest from the audience around it. So looking forward to that. But I would really want to take this opportunity to thank you all, Richa, Michelle, Geeta, and Usha, for being here. And so really taking time out of your busy schedules to support something which a lot of people are passionate about. But I think a lot of lessons for a lot of people here. And I saw it in the comments. They really loved the conversation. So thank you once again for joining in. And we look forward to also being connected with all for further any opportunity that we may have. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
To all of you. Bye.